Let's talk about internal versus external orientation. Now, I made a post on Saturday morning with a picture of a tent on this land that, through a series of consecutive miracles, I have acquired and am totally in love with. And I love spending time up there. So I posted a picture of a tent, and some of you took that as an invitation to post a bunch of Blair Witch stuff. And I think it's funny because, like, I don't think about that. Like, it truly did not cross my mind that that's where people would go with it. And I guess it's partly because I spend time every day in the forest and I never think about the Blair Witch Project. And I think something that was really interesting to me on top of that was that some people seem to feel entitled to post those things there. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to be super clear that that's not welcome here. And I know that these are uncertain times. And I think that if what you need is the comforting fiction of nostalgia bathing, I would invite you to leave this space. This space is about letting the present moment all the way in. I serve freedom in me and in you. And I care about you. And I don't give a fuck about pleasing you. And that's the difference between internal and external orientation. I understand intimately that we're all tugging on the same net. And I've made a promise that when people are suffering, trying to tear at that net, even though no one really can, that I will do my best to help ameliorate that suffering. And one of the ways, probably the most fundamental way, that I can keep an open heart to honor that promise is by setting really clear boundaries about what I'm available for and what I'm not. I mean, I'm a person whose obituary was written when she was 25 years old. And for a long time, I took that at face value. And that led me to PhD studies in alcoholism, led me to sleeping in my car in Walmart parking lots. It led me to really live out all of my worst case scenarios, right? And then what that provided for me is a sort of freedom, not a sort of freedom, is true freedom that I couldn't have been privy to in any other way. I think people don't talk about fame trauma because I guess, first of all, there's not a ton of people who experience it. And second, and more insidiously, I think because if you speak about it, you seem horribly ungrateful. And so then there's this level of shame that gets put on top of the trauma of the loss of identity that just sort of doubles down on it. So it's like this really difficult experience that you can't really talk to anyone about because you seem like a terrible person. And so I think for me, it took a long time to crawl through that fire because so much of that crawling was done in isolation. And now, having healed from that and being on the other side of it, I have no tolerance for people who feel like I owe them something. I don't owe anyone anything except for my care and my compassion, really. And I can keep giving that by having really clear boundaries. It's funny, like when it was indicated to me that it was time to step forward and start teaching, I asked one of my teachers if she thought I should change my name actually before I stepped in to teach. And she said, "Is that because you're afraid of being seen?" And I said, "No, I think it's more because I'm afraid that everything I say will be veiled with my past." And funnily enough, I'm actually getting a new name at the end of the month from another of my teachers. And I've been thinking a lot about whether I will use that, whether I will actually change my name. And it wouldn't be for me. I know who I am. It would be more for you, really. This thing of fully letting everything die, fully letting yourself die to really be free, to let that identity die, is something that I teach on, not out of some sort of theoretical idea. It's something that I embody, not because it was a path that I chose, but it was a path that I crawled. So for me, part of emotional sobriety has been really dying to that external orientation. My need to be liked or approved of has been replaced with just being in love. I know that sounds probably sort of corny, but I don't care. Yeah, it's hard to explain because I think sometimes when we think of external orientation, we think we want people to like us, because our connections with other people are the most important thing we have, you know? So it's certainly not about not wanting connection. It's about actually being so intimate with yourself that every connection that you have with everything is intimate and honest and can flow and move. If I'm trying to please someone, that's not coming from my heart. That's coming from my mind or my ego, or like that's just my identity turbine reiterating itself using force. And that's not power, that's force. And those are also two very different things. I don't need my identity turbine anymore. I don't care what my name is. It's irrelevant to my practice. When I was still feeding that identity turbine, thinking about like feeling so feeling so much despair at this idea of like, no matter what I do for the rest of my life, my obituary has been written. And that's a really challenging place to be. And it took me a long time to really be so grateful for that challenge because it taught me exactly this. If I maintained an external orientation, I would be dead. And I almost was, you know? I really almost was. And I see why it happens to so many people, you know? So many people who go through that fame ringer and don't come out the other side intact, let alone sort of in better shape than they went in. And I feel incredibly lucky and incredibly grateful that my struggles were such that they completely leveled me, that I was absolutely brought to my knees and had to make a very clear decision. Do I want to live or do I want to die? And part of deciding that I wanted to live meant that I was going to be of service. And then I had to be really clear on what I'm in service to. And that took a while and a lot of guidance and some really wonderful teachers. And that is freedom. I serve freedom. And I feel so grateful also that through this whole COVID time, through all of the chaos really that's happening now, this little slice of Facebook that I am able to create the boundaries around has been a place where people of wildly varying ideologies and thoughts and feelings about things have all been able to say their piece peacefully. And I feel really so honored by that. And so it definitely was startling when like the Blair Witch deluge happened with a picture of a tent. And so I kind of just wanted to come on today to share a little bit about that's not what this space is for. And I would refer you back to my nostalgia bathing versus and future fucking video that I did last week to really consider the value of really being with the present moment. Because I think in the chaos that we're all looking at and confronting now and encountering in so many different ways, that there's such a great temptation to disappear into either nostalgia bathing or future fucking. Don't fuck yourself with wishes and dreams about your future or fears or anxieties. This present moment is all. And that's what I hope to cultivate here, is an appreciation and a courage around that, around really being with just exactly what is. Because when, for myself, for my personal practice, when I reduce it to that right size, it's actually pretty manageable. It's if I start future fucking or looking for the balm of nostalgia bathing, the certainty of what has already happened, the certainty of what was. Well, but the past is over. My past, your past, it's all over. The past is by definition already over. So that's not really worth serving. It's not really worth indulging. And so I can't make space for that, and I won't. And I just want to be absolutely clear about that. No harm, no foul. If that's what you're here for, please see yourself out. Thank you so much.